Bull shark. Bull sharks are one of the only shark species built to tolerate fresh water for extended periods. Their kidneys and a specialized gland near the tail let them regulate salt levels well enough to push far past river mouths, hundreds of miles upstream in systems like the Mississippi, the Amazon, and the Zambezi. They've been documented well inland, in places with no ocean access nearby, which is why anglers targeting catfish or redfish in muddy, brackish rivers sometimes hook one without expecting a shark to be anywhere in the water. Adults commonly run 200 to 300 pounds, with a thick, stocky body built more for power than speed. They're opportunistic feeders, taking fish, rays, and smaller sharks, and that same opportunism is what puts them on the end of an angler's line. They'll hit a bait meant for something else entirely. Freshwater and brackish environments aren't just a detour for bull sharks. They're often a nursery. Females give birth in these low salinity zones because they offer fewer predators for newborn pups, which means river systems can hold bull sharks of every size, from juveniles under 2 feet to adults well over 300 pounds. That range is part of what makes them unpredictable to encounter. A small one might be mistaken for another species entirely, while a large one can outweigh most other freshwater catches by a wide margin. Once hooked, bull sharks fight hard and stay aggressive at the boat, thrashing through the final stages of the fight, rather than tiring out gradually the way many game fish do. Guides working brackish river mouths treat the boatside moment as the highest risk part of the encounter. The fish is still green, still capable of a full power head shake, and a mouthful of serrated teeth is now within a few feet of hands and legs. Most bull shark injuries to anglers happen in that final stretch, not during the fight, but during the release. Goliath tigerfish. The Goliath tigerfish carries a set of teeth long enough to stay visible, even when its mouth is fully closed. Interlocking, blade-like, and built for shearing rather than crushing. It's found throughout the Congo River basin, where turbid, fast-moving water lets it ambush prey at close range instead of chasing it down over distance. It preys on fish nearly its own size, including smaller tigerfish, and its jaw and teeth are shaped specifically for that kind of prey. Its build reflects that role: a torpedo-shaped body, a large forked tail, and a mouth positioned to strike forward rather than from below, all suited to a fast, close-range ambush rather than a prolonged chase. Adults can exceed 100 pounds, and the species has a reputation that extends beyond fishing. Attacks on swimmers and waders in parts of the Congo Basin are documented often enough that local communities treat the fish as a genuine hazard in the water, not just a trophy species. On the line, a Goliath tigerfish doesn't wear itself out the way many fish do. It stays violent boatside, thrashing hard even when it appears to be tiring. Removing a hook means working around a mouth that doesn't fully close, which is why guides who handle the species keep hands away until the fish is completely still. Not mostly still, completely. A tigerfish that looks worn out can still generate enough head movement to do real damage to a hand that gets too close too early. Giant snakehead. Giant snakeheads are native to Southeast Asia and have established invasive populations in parts of the southeastern United States, where they compete directly with native predatory fish. One trait sets them apart from most freshwater species. They have a primitive lung-like organ that lets them breathe atmospheric air directly, which allows them to survive in low-oxygen water and to keep functioning and fighting once they're out of the water, long after most fish would have stopped. During spawning season, snakeheads guard their nests aggressively, and both parents will strike at anything that comes close, including feet, legs, and boots. This is where most human encounters with the species actually happen, not while fishing, but while waiting near a nest. Documented bites on people who never cast a line are common enough in infested waters that avoiding known nesting areas during spawning season is standard local advice. The same air-breathing ability that makes them resilient on land is part of why they've spread so successfully outside their native range. A snakehead can survive out of water for extended periods as long as its skin stays damp, which has allowed established populations to persist and expand in U.S. waterways despite active removal efforts by state wildlife agencies. Hooked, that same aggression doesn't shut off. Their teeth are sharp and angled backward, built to keep prey from slipping free once it's caught, and that same mechanism makes hook removal difficult and risky. Because they can breathe air, they don't calm down the way a typical fish does once landed. They keep thrashing on the bank or in the boat well after they'd normally have gone still. Wels catfish. The Wels catfish is the largest freshwater fish native to Europe, with confirmed individuals exceeding 9 feet and 200 pounds, and unverified reports well beyond that. It's a nocturnal ambush predator, relying on a set of long barbels around its mouth to detect vibration and movement in murky or low-light water, rather than hunting by sight. Diet expands with size, smaller fish and invertebrates for juveniles, but large adults are known to take waterfowl, small mammals, and other fish close to their own length. Their range has also expanded well beyond native European rivers. Wels catfish have been introduced into lakes and canals across parts of Western Europe for sport fishing, and in some of those waters, without the same natural checks on population, they've grown to sizes that rival or exceed those in their native range. Unlike species that fight with speed or repeated runs, a hooked Wels catfish typically does neither. It uses body mass against the line, staying low and heavy, and simply refusing to move, which means the fight is often a slow, grinding standoff, rather than a dramatic one. That changes the moment the fish nears the surface. Its body is thick and muscular along its full length, and a single powerful thrash from a fish that size can move gear, tip balance, or catch an arm or hand off guard. European guides who target big Wels don't treat the fight itself as the dangerous phase, they treat the lift and the landing as the point where most injuries actually happen, simply because that's when the fish's full weight and power are closest to the people handling it. White sturgeon. White sturgeon are among the oldest fish lineages still alive, largely unchanged in body plan for tens of millions of years, and they're found in river systems along the Pacific coast of North America. They're bottom feeders with no functional teeth, using a protrusible, tube-like mouth to vacuum up invertebrates, small fish, and other food from the riverbed. Individuals can live well over 50 years and grow past 10 feet and several hundred pounds, making them the largest freshwater fish in North America. Their slow growth and long lifespan also make them slow to recover from overfishing, which is why many white sturgeon fisheries today operate on strict catch and release rules for the largest, oldest individuals. The fish an angler is most likely to have to handle carefully is often also the one the fishery can least afford to lose. None of that makes them aggressive. Sturgeon aren't predatory toward people in any sense, and the risk they present has nothing to do with intent. It comes from what a fish that size does when it's hooked and panicking. Large sturgeon jump and thrash violently, sometimes repeatedly, breaching close enough to a boat that the landing itself becomes the hazard. Guides on rivers like the Columbia describe hearing a heavy, wet impact against the hull before they see the fish land, and there are documented cases of anglers sustaining broken ribs or other serious injuries from a sturgeon coming down where it shouldn't have. Crews targeting large sturgeon spend as much time managing boat position during the fight as they do managing the rod, specifically to stay out of the path of an animal that isn't trying to hurt anyone, but is still fully capable of it. Shortfin mako shark. Shortfin makos are the fastest sharks in the ocean, capable of bursts estimated above 45 miles per hour, a speed made possible by a circulatory adaptation that lets them keep their muscles warmer than the surrounding water. That same physiology supports a hunting style built around speed. Makos chase down fast prey like tuna and other pelagic fish in open water, rather than ambushing from cover. Makos also grow slowly and reproduce infrequently compared to most fish, which has made overfishing a serious concern for the species, and pushed many fisheries toward mandatory release of larger individuals, the same fish most likely to put on the kind of fight that makes handling risky in the first place. That speed doesn't disappear once a mako is hooked. It converts into repeated, explosive jumps, some directed straight at the boat rather than away from it. A mako in the 100-plus pound range, landing on deck mid-fight, is documented often enough in offshore fishing circles that crews plan around the possibility rather than treating it as a rare accident. Unlike species that thrash in a fairly predictable direction, a mako's movement near the boat is erratic, and a shark with a full set of teeth moving unpredictably in close quarters is treated as the most dangerous phase of the trip. Leadering or gaffing a mako is handled as a distinct, high-focus procedure by experienced crews, not a routine step at the end of the fight. Freshwater stingray. Freshwater stingrays are found throughout the Amazon basin, where they spend much of their time partially buried in sand or silt on the riverbed, with only their eyes and the topmost surface of the body exposed. That camouflage is effective enough that most people injured by a freshwater stingray were never fishing for one. They stepped on it while waiting. Unlike most stingrays, which live in coastal or marine waters, freshwater stingrays spend their entire life cycle in river systems, and several distinct species inhabit the Amazon basin, ranging from from a dinner plate size up to several feet across. The tail carries a serrated, barbed spine near its base, coated in venom-producing tissue, capable of causing intense and lasting pain well beyond the puncture itself. The ray isn't aggressive and doesn't pursue anything. The spine is a defensive tool, used only when the animal is stepped on, grabbed, or otherwise pinned. For anglers who do hook one intentionally, the fight itself is typically unremarkable. Freshwater stingrays aren't fast or especially strong swimmers. The danger starts once the fish is within reach. Guides who handle them regularly follow one fixed rule: pin the tail completely before doing anything else, because nearly every stingray injury among anglers comes from a careless grab rather than from the fight. Electric eel. Despite the name, the electric eel isn't a true eel. It's a type of knife fish, more closely related to catfish and carp than to freshwater or moray eels. It's found throughout the Amazon and Orinoco basins, in slow-moving, often oxygen-poor water. To survive there, it breathes air directly through vascularized tissue lining its mouth, surfacing regularly regardless of how much oxygen is in the water around it. Roughly 4/5 of its body is made up of specialized electric organs, arranged in 3 separate systems that serve different purposes. One generates low-voltage pulses used for echolocation, sensing objects and prey in murky water where sight is nearly useless. The others produce high-voltage discharges, delivered in short bursts, used to stun prey and deter threats. Those discharges can exceed several hundred volts, more than enough to cause real pain and temporary muscle incapacitation in a person, and a large eel can fire off dozens of these pulses in rapid succession when threatened. Physically, an electric eel isn't much of a fighting fish. It isn't fast, isn't especially strong on the line, and doesn't put up the kind of resistance associated with most fish on this list. What makes it different is that its danger doesn't depend on teeth, size, or a fight at all. It travels through the water and the wet line itself, and there are documented cases of a shock from a large eel causing enough temporary paralysis in the water to contribute to drowning. The eel doesn't need to bite or strike anything. The water does the work for it.